Alrighty guys, well, it's been a long time since I've played any games and recorded them, but I've been playing a lot of Dreams, and I've gotten decently good at it, and I have gotten really far in what I've built. If you guys have watched my stuff in the past, you know that I love off-roading, and that's one of the main things that I love to build in these type of games, like Little Big Planet. Well, I did that in this game. Come with me and I'll show you. So, this is my rock crawler. I thought it would be a good idea to start out with a rock crawler first, and then be able to build down to make less capable vehicles, which works amazing, by the way, I might add. But this has turned out to be one hell of a badass vehicle. I've used a few of other people's ideas, but tweaked them. I tweaked them quite a lot, actually. For start, the first thing to do with this game is it's impossible to make a solid axle shift side to side the right way, like have suspension travel correctly. It will become one object and move up and down. It doesn't matter what side, what tire is going up on an obstacle. The whole axle will go up. So, I've done a little bit of research in the past. Casey Anato, that guy. Casey Anato's builds. He builds probably the best off-roaders in this game. Until maybe I come along, I might become the best, but I don't know, remains to be seen. But he has some pretty cool builds that are awesome. I have two of them saved. It's these two, because I'm going to take the bodies and then completely redo them. He's got a Jeep and a 6x6. And the way that he has these built are pretty cool. The way he found how to get around making a solid axle that's able to shift up and down depending on what obstacle it goes on is awesome. And it's not overly complicated. So let's take a look at that real quick. Oh crap, that was already open. Okay. So here we go. He has it on ball joints that are making it have suspension travel. I didn't like that idea, but I did like his idea of making it so the axle can shift. So right here, he has basically a sway bar that hooks up to this other bar, and then it turns into another ball joint and just allows it to have shift and pivot, which is really awesome. And I'm pretty sure he uses these as his springs, but I'm not sure. I don't use them as my springs. I use them as adjustments for the shocks and springs. So yes, this is the same. I used that idea and completely redid it and made it, in my opinion, better, but it's still awesome that he came up with this. I don't think I would have been able to get as far as I am without this idea, because this game's physics are really hard to make something super realistic and awesome, especially suspension-wise. So yeah, that's the way he does it on this, and this is the one that I got the idea from. He also has these balls that the tire flex it, makes it look like the tire has low tire pressure, but they freak out and throw, and they lose, like, they don't have the best traction, and also they're really glitchy. They freak out, and if they hit something a certain way, the car just goes flying. That's really bad, especially with the Jeep. But his builds are really awesome. I do recommend taking a look at his builds. They're really cool. But that guy's name is Casey Anato. I'll go look at him real quick. Right here, Casey Anato. He makes some awesome stuff, and also Insane Artist is a really awesome one as well. I've used quite a bit of their assets, like mountain range, rocks, stuff like that, just to make it easier on me, and I've just changed them a little bit. Nothing too crazy. But with that being said, I've made a few different things. So let's take a closer look at the actual build. So let's start from the actual main harness. It's really similar to my Little Big Planet build. That's what I was after. So if we go here, these are the exact same, basically. It's rotators that adjust by reverse, drive, four-wheel drive, and forward low and stuff like that. All this adjusts to those speeds going through this. And also, in this game, you're able to make it so there's quick adjustments. So, quick tuning, which is really nice. Yeah, I really like that. Let's see. So with that being said, I don't have to have like a crazy amount of complication. I can just have one setup on one tire and then just put rotators on the other tires, and I don't have to have all the logic behind it because it's all hooked up to that one main tire. So these are my brakes. So in this game, brakes don't exist. Nothing works for brakes 100%. This is the best thing you can do, is just turn these both up to 100 and it will stop the tires. But going downhill, that doesn't stop the tires. It still lets them roll. So I made it lock up with a gyroscope. It's kind of crappy because it rotates backwards or forwards depending on where the wheel's at, because it's trying to get to that main gyro spot. So that's the best you can do with brakes. Tire pressure. I've made my own version of tire pressure. This consists of another piece of tire poking out, making it look like it is low on tire pressure, and also I've made it so the tire compresses through the squish setting. So I'll show you real quick. Through the squish setting right here, this goes up only like to 1 and then back down really fast. So it makes it look like it squishes only for a second, but that squishes the entire tire. So I make it look like it's not as prominent as the tire that just appears. So that's pretty cool. There's no such thing as engine braking, so I made my own engine braking. It's just giving it torque, holding the vehicle back, going downhill. Without it, it is horrible to drive. So that's pretty cool. I created every asset of the vehicle itself, from the axles to the ORIs to the drive shafts to the U-joints to the entire axle housing assemblies, the control arms, rotors, tires, rims, bead locks. Everything is all mine, all fully custom. I fully built it. seats, tires, steering wheel, fuel, gas tank, sorry, and the chassis itself. Every bit of it is my creation. And it's all done just by drawing, basically. Taking a block and drawing with it. Just like Little Big Planet. Except not as easy, in my opinion. It was easier in Little Big Planet mainly because it was 2D. This is 3D and it's a lot harder. Anyways, so let's take a look in here. Okay, so here we have the main logic of the car. This is the main microchip. This controls the entire thing besides those tires. So let's start with the controlinator, which is not called a controlinator in this game, but it basically is that. It just takes all the inputs from your controller and puts it in to wherever you want to put it. So let's take a look at drivetrain first. So it's exact same thing as Little Big Planet as well. So I made it so you have to shift, you have to hold your brake to be able to shift the transmission and transfer case. You have to be in the right gears to do these things, as in real life. So to change your gear, you have to hold the brake, and then push circle to shift up or shift down to go into drive or reverse or whatever. And then you have to be in neutral while holding the brake to shift the transfer case to go into two high, sorry, and 4 low, and so on and so forth. So there's that, and I made it so the shifter linkage, the actual shifter, all the shifters move, the brake, e-brake, the brake pedals, the throttle pedal, gas pedal, and the steering all move their own way. And that's thanks to these guys right here called keyframes, and they are awesome. I wish Little Big Planet had keyframes. It would make life so much easier. But this is way better. Anyways, so then we have automatic transmission. This is my automatic transmission in this game. It's just a mover setup. It's based off of movers because the rotation of the tires works in this game. The fastest you can get is 15 miles per hour, I think. In this game, movers go a lot faster, just like in Little Big Planet. So these are all movers, and it just changes how fast the mover is going at a certain speed. And that also has to do with the sound effects and stuff like that. So let's go down here to sound effects and take a look at that real quick. So we have the main engine, acceleration, and transmission. So this is your automatic transmission. This is what gives you that shift and just keep going and shifting. There's rev with no traction and stuff like that. I'm not going to bore you with that. It's just what it is. And then we have 4 low. It needs a completely different engine sound because it's lower geared. So it's unable to shift and stuff like that. So that's what this one is. And I'm pretty sure I used mainly assets from Medium Molecules builds and sound effects. Except this one. Whoever made this sound effect is awesome. This makes the perfect idle sound for this crawler. Alright, so that's that. Alright, engine rev up. So holding your brake and revving so you can do a bump and stuff like that actually works. In neutral, revs up. If you want to, if you're holding your gas, it will let you rev up. Same with park. Everything you could imagine with a realistic car, this vehicle can probably do that. And it's basically the same exact stuff. as the other one. These are new. This is tire sound effects and all that. From tire squeals on rocks and driving on gravel in general, and throwing rocks and stuff at the chassis. So those are all randomized, and it causes vibration in the controller and everything. Some of these are... This one is your main going a certain speed. All of it is on except for, obviously, tire squeal. But all of them are on. And some of these sound effects do come out of the controller, which is really cool, because you're able to hear things better. Because the engine is so loud in this game. I made it loud on purpose, because who doesn't like the sound of an engine? It just makes it nicer. You're able to hear what's going on beneath the car and stuff like that. Alright, now we got suspension sound. Your basic suspension sounds. When the suspension compresses all the way, it makes a sound. When it decompresses, it makes another sound. Super basic. Alright, now we got steering to look at. So the steering is run off of pistons. And the pistons shift back and forth. This right here is to adjust the steering alignment. So it where you want the steering wheel to be. That's what that one is. And this one is your steering return speed. It just returns to the middle mark of where this one's at. It's awesome. I got that from Casey and Otto too, but I messed around with that and made it different too. Okay, so we have our brains for our... I don't know why it's named brake sensitivity. That's the wrong thing. It's e-brake lock and four-wheel drive park gear. And then normal brake lockup. So you have to be holding the brakes hard enough to lock up the tires to engage the gyroscopes. Otherwise, it just looks horrible. But, yeah. So that's brakes. So it changes from when you're in park in two-wheel drive, only the rear tires are locked up. In four-wheel drive, the front and rear are locked up in park. And the e-brake works like an e-brake. Okay, next we have quick vehicle tuning. This is nice too. So we have tire pressure and traction amount. So change the traction of the tires, change the tire deformation on the tires themselves. Oh, I did forget to mention that with the tires, that squishy setting is beyond horrible. It makes the tires have way too much traction. It doesn't change with how high the setting is. It just makes it have insane amount of traction, which is super unrealistic. And it can squish a lot at the highest setting. So that's why I only use like 1 on the setting. Okay, next we have open diff. This is cool. So on the open diff, your one tire goes up in the air. That tire is getting all the speed, torque going to it. That tire that's not is not getting power to it. The tire that is on the ground is not going to get power because all the power is getting transferred to the tire that doesn't. That is not on the ground. So in this game, that's not a thing. So you have to make your own logic for it to make it a thing. And to do that, you just have to turn off the power to the tire when one tire is off the ground. Simple as that. And that's what all this is for all 4 tires. Now we have something that I've been struggling with and working on for a long time. Lockers. I finally perfected lockers. So you have to have actual axle shafts inside the axle housing. to make this work. The axle housing isn't able to touch the axle shafts to save room on data and stuff like that. So inside you have actual axle shafts that are going through. My U-joints to the axle shafts actually work too. All of this works the way it's supposed to. So we'll turn that off, and then we'll take a look at the... did I not turn this on? Oh, I didn't. Okay. So what I use for lockers is a bolt. What better than a bolt? You just tighten the bolt and make it so it can't rotate. This is perfect, because you have to have the U-joints and you have to have axle shafts. Otherwise, the steering doesn't work at all. Stuff doesn't work, run into all kinds of issues. But this is great, because these keyframes, I don't know why that's front locker locked. Why is that empty? Maybe it's not been locking. Okay, well, that's good to know. Anyways, there's sound effects for turning on the lockers, on and off the lockers. And what lockers do are make it so the tires spin the exact same rate. They can't differ from each other. That's really nice. I do have damage as well, so the vehicle can get damaged. This is the engine blow up, being tipped over, starved of oil. The engine will blow up and won't work anymore, and then the vehicle's done. And then you also have full throttle too long. It will, like if you're on an obstacle sitting there just flooring it, it's eventually going to blow the engine. It's just too much for the engine to handle. And then let's take a look at these ones. So I made it so you can break your front drive shaft, rear drive shaft, and your tie rod. So that's what all this is. It's just the logic behind it all. It spawns in broken parts, breaks the parts that are connected to the vehicle, and then acts as if they're not there, which they aren't. So, and then like I said, it emits and drops a broken part onto the ground to make it look a little more realistic. It takes a certain amount of hits to break something, and it takes a certain amount of pressure on those parts to break something. So like the rear drive shaft, I'm pretty sure it does 15, and that's pretty nice. I am going to drive this vehicle for you guys. It's going to be in its own video, but maybe I'll put it in this one. It depends on how long this video turns out to be. This is just a showcase. So yeah, this is the awesome setup I got going on so far. The control arms are 2-link, just like a Toyota Land Cruiser. And they work really well. They do their work. They do the job. So we have a transfer case right here. What controls the drive shafts are the tires. Tire speed connects to those drive shafts and rotates the drive shafts that same speed. And with the U-joints, they're just connected straight to the rotor. So there's no way to mess that up. There is something else that I forgot to mention about Casey Anato and his builds. He also made it so there's a glitch. This game is weird. You have weight, and putting on certain weight on certain parts makes them stronger, which is super weird, because the lowest setting weight, well, let's say the tires don't have their highest setting of weight. They'll just flop over. It doesn't matter what, it just makes these connectors, these bolts and ball joints and everything like that, just makes them stronger. I don't know why, it just does. The physics just do that. So it's stronger. And it's so Casey Anato came up with these. I think he came up with them, but they were on his truck. So let's take a look at one of these and go to the amount of weight. So he made it. It's a glitch, I would think, because this thing should not weigh this much. And it can go up to 2,000 kilograms, which is insane. But it makes everything so much stronger if you just attach those to certain parts. But we'll take a look at this as well. We'll hold the body and see what the suspension... It's going too far right now, but that's just because I'm doing all my testing and stuff. I wanted it to have length on the pistons go up and down. So that's where those are sitting. Alright, let's talk a little bit more about the suspension itself. So this is my setup for the suspension. It's the same thing basically, except I redid it and did it my way. It's relatively similar, but I just changed it around. Somehow it makes it so the axle's able to shift independently on each side, which is great. Without that, solid axle wouldn't exist in this game. So props to Casey Anato if he was the one to create that, which I think he is, because no one else has that on any other vehicle. I've looked at off-road stuff, I've looked at everything, no one else has it. So let's take a look. So we got a shock. So the shock absorber works like a shock. Adds dampening to the suspension. Makes it so you're not hitting hard and making it so it's able to calm its suspension down. Saying that's what this slider's for, is it makes it have that tension. This one is for spring tension. Exact same thing. So both of them have different tunes on them because it changes with the weight of the vehicle, but whatever. So spring also has that same amount of tension. I don't know why, but it needs it. Don't ask me. Physics of this game. But this, you'll see that the spring tension is a lot higher on the actual spring. So pistons are the way to go if you want to make suspension in this game that is realistic. And like I was saying about Casey Anato's bolts, there is a springiness that adds spring to these parts that shift. It helps a little bit, but if I change that, it will change how stiff that suspension can be. So it kind of adds a weight balance to the vehicle on the suspension. But yeah, that's it so far. It's pretty awesome. I'm happy with it. It's super realistic. It runs the way it should for the most part. And I think the hard part about it is this game is really hard to put things together. So I can't just take these axles, take them off this vehicle, and re-put them back together to make another vehicle with shorter wheelbase. It sucks. So I gotta figure that out to make new vehicles. But yeah, last thing on this vehicle for right now is the collisions. There are collisions on the skid plate, the axles, and stuff like that. They get hit. It's not going to damage anything, but it will make a noise of damaging something because you're rubbing metal on rock or whatever. So there's that sound. But there you have it, guys. That is my rock crawler so far. It's still got quite a long way to go, honestly, but that's where we're sitting for right now. Oh no. This is what I was talking about. This frickin' glitch traction with the squishy tire. The squishiness. Oh man. This is why I don't use that. Looks like a scared kitty.